There's just something amazingly awesome about Kirby in a mech suit. You never knew you wanted something like that, but when you see it, it seems so obvious. And as a follow-up to the excellent Triple Deluxe, Kirby Planet Robobot looks incredibly promising. Even better, it's not that far from release, meaning that a ton of information has been released about the game. So it's time to power on the old analysis machine to find all the secrets and hidden details that not only the American Direct holds, but the European and Japanese ones as well. And not only that, there's even more information to be found in the released fact sheet and the Japanese website. However, just as we were editing together this analysis, Nintendo actually removed a ton of information from the fact sheet, including the Alien Force's name, extra modes, and a third new copy ability. Unfortunately, we were unable to screen grab the information before Nintendo did this, but the information is real. With all that said, there's a lot to dig through, so let's get to it. Speaking of the Japanese website, it actually revealed the entire opening sequence that was only hinted at in the trailer. The story begins with a massive alien spaceship flying over planet Popstar, much to the shock of King Dedede and Meta Knight. Kirby, meanwhile, is just enjoying a nap, as you do, as the ship pulls out 4 massive drills to lock onto Popstar while launching hundreds of mechanical spires from its center. The alien ship also sends down flying robots carrying their mechs, and we can actually see the pilots are riding inside. It's not obvious at first, but this white egg-like shape are the mech pilots, at least the top of them, as we'll point out later. It seems there are 2 types of objects in the spires. One appears to be a leafy metal tree, while the other is more bare with only bulbs at the end. The spires immediately begin mechanizing the land and expanding strange metal plates. They seem to power one another too, as a burst of electricity connects all of them as they lock into place. Dedede and Meta Knight do try to protect their home, but Dedede's castle is destroyed and the halberd is shot down by incredibly powerful lasers. And somehow Kirby sleeps through all of this, only waking when the excitement is over in a small patch of natural landscape. Interestingly, we can see that the metal panels look a little like Lego blocks with a nub on top, possibly for other things to latch onto. We also see a third type of spire that doesn't contain a metal tree in a light bulb shaped glass. Instead, it's simply a star. Is there any kind of reasoning behind these spires and their different shapes and sizes? Kirby games aren't exactly known for their complex plots, so we might never get a full explanation. But upon seeing the state of the world, the pink puffball finally sets out to save Popstar once again. And thanks to the fact sheet Nintendo released, we know that this invading force is called the Haltman Works Company. Rather than an all-powerful evil presence, it seems this invasion is just business, though we don't think everyone in the company agrees with this plan. One of the released screenshots seems to take place shortly after the opening cutscene and shows a new character named Susie who seems to work for the company, as she reports that the mechanizing occupation project is underway. Considering that she has a prominent place on the Planet Robobot box art along with Kirby and Meta Knight, we believe she'll eventually help Kirby. Exactly what her role will be though, we're not quite sure. Right off the bat, it's obvious that the biggest feature of Planet Robobot is the new mech that Kirby can commandeer, appropriately enough called the Robobot Armor. But first, Kirby has to actually defeat the pilot. When he does, we can see the full form that we only glimpsed at in the opening cutscene. The pilot seems to have a black face, yellow eyes, and blue limbs, all of which also appear on a new pill-shaped enemy that grants Kirby his Doctor ability. It likely means that all of the new organic enemies follow these same basic traits. Uniquely, the pilot has some kind of white and brown extension, which may be the top of its head. Because of the fact that it's flipping out of the mech, it's difficult to say conclusively. As Kirby gets in the armor, we can see that there's an H symbol on the mech, which of course stands for the Haltman Works Company. But that all disappears as the Robobot armor changes to better match Kirby, while the little guy becomes a pilot, goggles and all. While in the mech, Kirby has access to a ton of new options and becomes much more powerful. We see that the mech can dash for a burst of speed, while his standard attack becomes a powerful punch that can even destroy metal barrels. We even see the power it has against Waddle Dees, as one is launched from his tiny mech, only to be carried along with the Robobot armor before being punched into and bounced away from the barrels. Poor thing didn't stand a chance. Throughout the footage, we get a better sense of what the armor can do for Kirby and even some of its limitations, but it's apparent that the mech is incredibly strong. While the American Direct showed that the Cutter mech could be used to destroy the Waddle Dees holding spiked pillars over the path, The European Direct didn't even bother. Kirby jumps right into the middle, which is too much for the Waddle Dees. In fact, throughout all of this footage, the Robobot armor is not damaged once. It either shrugs off obstacles like this, or takes out an enemy before it can do anything. But as we said, there are limitations. At one point, we see a battery in the background. One would think that this must be for the armor, but there are no other indications that it might run low on power. There's no meter anywhere on either screen, so does it only appear when running low? We're not so sure based off the fact that we see the battery pack again in footage from the Japanese website. Here it seems to be connected to some kind of nearby station. Is this used to immediately charge it? We don't think so. In fact, the batteries might need to be collected specifically for this machine as a way to teleport the armor into the level and allow Kirby to use it. After all, there has to be a way to balance the machine. We see this again with a different kind of station which allows Kirby to exit the armor. It's impossible for the armor to proceed, so Kirby needs to work his way through the pipe, cut the rope to set off the bomb block, and clear the way forward for the armor. And it seems the process of getting the armor from point A to point B will be a common type of puzzle. In a different level, we see another docking station to the right of Kirby just before the footage fades to white. Interestingly, some of the Robobot armor's other capabilities highlight what it's not able to do. At one point, we see that the armor can undo screws found in the levels, opening up the path ahead, which can lead to secret paths and hidden items. For example, in this same scene, Kirby could jump up the newly opened path, collect an item, return and undo the next screw so it lands in the foreground, where it will likely get caught on the platform there, opening up yet another path to explore or continue the level. We see this again when Kirby uses the screwdriver to completely rotate a platform in order to reach a higher point. But this also proves that Kirby cannot infinitely jump while riding the armor, and it's further demonstrated when the armor actually picks up heavy objects and carries them around. He can even jump with them. However, in this case, the reason he has to pick it up is to make a platform so he can continue forward. And it's not just boxes that Kirby can lift, but cannons as well, which is completely necessary. Kirby places the cannon above the end of a fuse and jumps inside. Considering that there are ladders nearby, albeit small ones, it appears that the armor can't climb them. However, we do see it using the warp star, so at least that's not a limitation. But the mech opens up new pathways as well, such as these metal blocks that it punches through, revealing stars, pancakes, and one of the new collectibles which we'll detail later. But these are just the basic abilities of the Robobot armor. Like Kirby, it can take the powers of enemies. Instead of eating them though, the mech scans the enemies, though the end result is still the same. Kirby gets an ability, and the enemy is gone. Nintendo has revealed that there are 10 different mech abilities, called armor modes, and we've been able to see 8 of them throughout the released information. The first is the Spark mode, which has large boosters while its arms become Tesla coils that can rapidly shoot electricity balls as a standard attack. Next is the Cutter mode, which grants the armor 2 saw blade arms that can be spun in order to slice through enemies and hazards, such as the Waddle Dees holding the spiky poles as we mentioned before. In another attack, we see that the saw blades can be charged to rapidly spin before releasing the button, sending the blade flying forward and destroying the enemy ahead. Then we have Sword mode and its 2 giant beam blades. While Kirby can't take out the Gigavolts themselves, he can use sword slashes to destroy the large square tree platforms that they're resting on. It also reveals a warp star which will allow Kirby to go into the background and collect the chest, making it a good idea to not cut down every tree he comes across. Like Kirby's normal abilities, the armor modes can display a wide range of combat abilities beyond standard and charged attacks. He can perform a downward aerial strike that also destroys a tree and reveals another collectible. And it can not only cut through wood, but chains as well, further showing off the armor's power. The fourth mode is Stone, which gives the armor massive fists that are able to deliver a stronger but slower punch that can be used to move incredibly heavy objects like this overloaded forklift. Then there's the Parasol mode, where the arms are constantly pointing upward with rotating blades. These blades can be spun in order to lift the mech into the air, destroying almost anything above it. In this case, it's the returning Foley enemy. In this same level, presumably, we see that the mech changes completely for its jet mode, and the game becomes more akin to a shooter. The Bronto Burts even come from the side like it is one. Offensively, the jet mode can fire a short burst of bullets straight ahead, or charge to unleash one huge missile straight ahead, while 2 smaller ones follow it on either side. These missiles can barrel through multiple enemies. However, we never see Kirby turn around in the mech. He only goes backwards when charging, so this may keep him locked in that direction. It's also possible that he can only look forward while another attack can take things out behind Kirby, so he's able to retrieve the collectible from behind the bomb block. The fire mode gives the armor a hot rod paint job and flamethrowers for arms. It's so hot that it even leaves a trail of fire behind it as it dashes. And of course the normal attack is a sustained flamethrower. Unlike the other modes so far, it doesn't seem like this attack can be charged. However, Kirby can aim which direction the flamethrower shoots. These flames are so powerful that it can take out the Waddle Dees driving trucks, utterly destroying them, along with one of the obstacles on a train level where giant rockets are rotating between the background and foreground. Kirby's other unique attack, which sends the flamethrowers on either side, demolishes them with no problem. The 8th and final mode that we know of so far is Beam, in which the mech's arms fold behind it and open up an area where the beam shots are held until fired. The standard attack sends out a bouncing ball of energy, and of course has a charged version where the shot is larger and more powerful, but slower. The most interesting aspect of Beam mode though is that we see it used in order to send electricity through exposed wires. After electrifying them, Kirby has to move a block to each broken section in order to continue the current and open a door at the end to reach a new collectible. The question is, shouldn't this be something that's done with the Spark mode, or can both of them accomplish this kind of puzzle? It's also shown that, like Kirby, the armor can discard abilities at any time with a press of the X button. The new Robobot armor seems incredibly powerful while not becoming game-breaking due to its bulky size. There are even puzzles for it to solve. We do wonder though what the 2 final armor modes will be. Interestingly, all of the modes shown so far, except Jet, originated in Kirby's Adventure. So while we have no basis for this, we do suspect the rest will come from there as well. Maybe Ice and Wheel? We'll just have to wait and see. That may be all for the Robobot armor, but Kirby still has his normal copy abilities as well. While we don't have a total amount, we have discovered 25 different abilities that will be featured in the game, so let's break them down. A few of the returning ones include Parasol, Stone, which includes its ability to change into a stone statue of Meta Knight, DDD, and Bandana D, Archer, Bomb, and Mike. In addition, the Japanese website showcases even more abilities. We can see Leaf, Ninja, Crash, Whip, Ice, Sword, Beam, and Circus. The Direct also explained how Amiibo would work in Planet Robobot. While some Amiibo give Kirby a specific power like Mario and Fire, most will give him a random power. In this case, it's Cutter Kirby. The Smash Bros. Kirby Amiibo gives Kirby the Smash Bros. Ability, which includes most of his moveset from that game. We see him slamming the Moonja with his grab, using Final Cutter on the Glunk, and dropping down with his Stone ability to crush whatever's beneath him. It's the first time this ability has returned in a full game since Kirby in the Amazing Mirror. But then we have the brand new Kirby line of Amiibo, each one giving Kirby something unique. The Kirby Amiibo gives him the UFO ability, which can only be obtained with this Amiibo. Could this mean that the Smash Bros. Ability can be gained normally as well? Meanwhile, the Waddle Dee Amiibo gives him the Parasol ability and changes his appearance to look more like Waddle Dee with an orange color and a bandana. Even the Parasol itself is unique with its blue polka dots. The Meta Knight Amiibo is naturally the Sword ability, and the costume includes his dark blue color, wings, Meta Knight's mask on top of his head, and the Galaxia sword. Finally, the DDD Amiibo is the simplest, with Kirby becoming light blue in color and receiving DDD's trademark hat. His ability is Hammer, which is the only indication that it returns for this game. The rest of the returning abilities are confirmed either by the return of certain enemies or the revealed Robobot armor modes, sometimes both. Knuckle Joe can be seen in one gameplay clip, which means Fighter is back. Along with the Jet mode, we can see that Capsule J2 is an enemy as well, so that's Jet Kirby's confirmation. Likewise, the presence of Spark mode and the enemy Elec guarantees Spark Kirby's return. Finally, there's Wheel Kirby, since we can see Wheelie during the Meta Knight Amiibo clip. With that, we have 22 different abilities that Kirby can use, but there are still 3 brand new ones: Doctor, Poison, and ESP. We actually get to see quite a bit of both Doctor and Poison, but Nintendo has yet to showcase ESP, only describing it in their released fact sheet. It simply said that it gives Kirby a cool hat while simultaneously gaining access to psychic abilities. Exactly what form that will take, and how cool that hat really will be, we'll have to wait and see. Kirby obtains the Doctor ability by swallowing a new enemy that actually looks like a pill. It has the same black face and yellow eyes as the Robobot pilot, except that the hat it's wearing contains even smaller pills. It attacks by grabbing these pills and throwing them at Kirby. As we see, Kirby doesn't necessarily need to eat this new enemy. The pill it throws will suffice. Dr. Kirby puts on a lab coat, a head mirror, and glasses that are falling down his face. Looks like he's ready to perform science. And by science, we mean bash enemies with a giant clipboard during his forward dash attack. The only other time that we see him physically strike an enemy is during his aerial attack, where he spins into them. His standard attack throws pills in the same way as Dr. Mario in Super Smash Bros., but it can also be charged in order to throw pills in all directions which bounce off walls until they hit an enemy. In a surreal move, Kirby pulls out a giant syringe that sends out a rainbow fluid above himself, damaging anything that touches it. But the attack that has us the most curious is his chemistry set. 3 times we see him use this attack in the available footage, and each example has a different effect. The first sends up a simple sustained explosion straight above him. Then we see the same scene in the Japanese direct, except this time the concoction sends out several balls of light that fly up before falling on either side of him. Finally, this concoction freezes nearby enemies if they touch it. So that leaves us wondering, are the concoctions random, or is there some way to determine what kind is used? We honestly have no idea. Furthermore, it seems that Kirby has invincibility frames while preparing the concoctions. While fighting the Robobot armor, it clearly punches near him, yet the animation wasn't interrupted. Did it simply miss because Kirby was low to the ground, or is he really invulnerable while sciencing? The final new copy ability is Poison, and like Doctor, we see the enemy that gives the ability. It appears to be a strange amalgamation with a frog's head and the body of a slug. He has a nice enough smile despite being pure poison, just like the cute poisonous frogs in the real world. Upon becoming Poison Kirby, we see that his standard attack throws a glob of poison that lingers on the ground. If charged, Kirby can release a torrent of poison sludge and aim it at nearby enemies. His aerial attack covers the floor in poison goop, and he can even spew out a cloud of noxious gas. As a close-range attack, Poison Kirby can perform a combo using his waves of poison, but his most versatile attack is actually his dash. In it, he rides atop a wave of poison that leaves a trail behind. And this trail is still deadly as we see a boss walk over it and take damage, making it incredibly useful when running from an enemy. The poison can even be ridden over water without falling in. It really feels like Poison is going to be a trap-based ability that can slowly chip away at enemies' health. But there are way more enemies that we simply haven't pointed out yet. While there are a lot of the classics, there are some who are outright new or have gotten a mechanical facelift. And the Foley is a perfect example of that. We see it in this new mechanical form both normally and when it becomes angry, which is more than a little terrifying considering those sharp teeth. However, that doesn't mean that regular Foleys are completely gone, as we see the organic variety in the footage as well. The big question though is whether the metal Foley still gives Kirby the bomb ability when swallowed like its normal version. If it doesn't, that might be a way to provide more challenge in the game. Not all enemies are fully mechanized though. Some have just received attachments like the Bronto Burst, which has new metal wings and a scouter-like device over its right eye. It may as well be labeled a cyborg at this point. It still acts the same though, as we can see it flying around normally or carrying a bomb to drop on Kirby. Then there's the Cappies, who have a new metal hard hat and a kind of metal band around their lower waist. Even Scarfy has some kind of mechanical upgrade attached to it. Throughout the trailer we also see that Shotzo's return, firing from the background like they did in Triple Deluxe. But this time they also brought along the bigger Gigatzos, which we pointed out previously. There doesn't seem to be anything too new to them though, considering they're already metal. Other unchanged enemies include Chips, Sparky, and Poppy Brothers Jr., who's waiting in the background to throw bombs at Jet Armor Kirby. There are so many more returning enemies though, including Gabon, which hasn't been seen since Kirby 64. He still acts the same, throwing bones until the skull on his head is knocked off. Switching to the small clips of the new Amiibos, we can see that Sir Kibble, Squishy, Blade Knight, and Rocky are all back as well. Then there's Galbo, Kabu, Dekabu, Broom Hatter, Hothead, Flamer, Blipper, and even a Mamonti jumping out of the water. Walf, an enemy that debuted in Return to Dreamland, is also back. We even get to see another new enemy that seems to be wearing a kind of old diving suit and wielding what could either be a bomb or a large club. It's not exactly clear. Even the Japanese website shows some returning enemies with artwork of Spinum. But let's not forget the Waddle Dees and their many varieties that can be seen. Some are walking around in hard hats, which seems to be the default version since we also see them riding the parasols. Although we did spot one Waddle Dee riding a parasol that was sporting a mechanical eye patch like the Bronto Birds. Then there's a more combative version that rides around in a mech, though we don't think it's that dangerous. After all, it's powered by a wind-up key in the back. But eventually it seems like they get some firepower, as this one forgoes the key for a rocket on its back. It doesn't help in this case though, as Kirby just eats the suit. But we do later see this Waddle Dee in the background firing a rocket into the foreground. We also see the return of swinging Waddle Dees along with their cousins, the Waddle Doos. In fact, a screenshot shows that the mini-boss version of Waddle Doo, called King Doo, is in Planet Robobot 2, except this time it has also received mechanical augmentations. We see two other mini-bosses as well. The first is against a larger, mechanized version of Sir Kibble, while the second is Gigant Slash. However, Gigant Slash is only seen in the Team Kirby Clash mode, so it is possible that it doesn't appear in the main game. After all, the multiplayer mode also shows the Kirbys fighting the normal version of Wispy Woods, and there's no sign of it anywhere in the main story. Instead, we see what a screenshot reveals to be Clanky Woods, and even a little of its battle arena. A clip of the poison ability shows Clanky Woods Arena in full, which is a 2D circular plane. But that actually has us confused since we can clearly see Clanky Woods walking toward Kirby and launching missiles during the normal gameplay. The biggest differences are the lack of a life bar and the different camera angle. It all seems to point to a portion of a level where Kirby must stay away from Clanky Woods and simply can't defeat him yet. But that leads to even more questions because of the existence of what seems to be another boss, Gigavolt. Gigavolt and Clanky Woods are even fought in the same Grasslands level. The big difference is that Gigavolt is being fought in the Robobot armor, and considering that the mech is obviously necessary to defeat it, and the arena seems to be part of the overall level, it seems as if there will be more involved mini-boss fights that require more effort on the part of the player, simply because the armor is required. Thanks to the Japanese Direct, we also have a more complete idea of how Gigavolt is fought. While its right arm is already destroyed, we can see that his left hand is protected by some kind of metal container. Kirby must dodge Gigavolt's attacks and then attack the container until it is destroyed. This reveals the screw on the back of its hand, which can be undone in order to completely destroy the arm. Interestingly, as soon as Kirby gets rid of that screw, he lands on top of Gigavolt's head in order to undo the one found there. But this also reveals a series of tubes on its back, which could indicate that Gigavolt has a secondary attack where it launches missiles at Kirby. This really seems to be quite the mini-boss battle. With that, all we have left to cover are the new levels and collectibles that can be found in the main story of Kirby Planet Robobot. When it comes to the collectibles, most of them return from previous Kirby games. The stars are still there, which grant Kirby an extra life for every 100 collected. And like previous games, running past flowers will make them bloom and give Kirby stars. The big difference in this case is that they're metal flowers this time around. Medicine bottles can be found as well, healing Kirby along with the other food items that have popped up. But the two biggest collectibles are stickers and code cubes. We can see the stickers several times in the footage, both when they're new and when they've already been collected. The new ones shine bright in gold while the old ones are a simple blue. The key thing about this is that collecting them seems to work like the keychains in Triple Deluxe. Each sticker is unique to that position. So what did the stickers do? Well, thanks to Nintendo's fact sheet, we know they're used to decorate your Robobot. The Japanese website even shows this off a bit. We still don't know if multiple stickers can be used, but at least one will go on the Robobot's shoulder. Some of the stickers include the Japanese writing for Peach Ball, which is quite fitting for Kirby, a Waddle Dee, a doodle of Kirby, and a star icon that shows Planet Popstar on the top right. The bigger mystery is the code cubes that can be found in each level. Nintendo offered no explanation as to what they could do, but the screenshots of both the top and bottom screens always show 3 of them. It is possible that 5 could be in an individual level considering that there's free space. The only exception is during the boss fight against Clanky Woods. Perhaps the cubes unlock a true ending or some of the other single-player modes that can be found in the game? It's impossible to say for sure right now. Like most Kirby games, we believe that Grasslands will be the first world. Not only can we see the Spires from the opening cutscene in the background, but there's a tutorial sign at one point showing how to discard a power while in the Robobot. Of course, this Grassland has a twist. Almost everything is metal. While the objects may look like trees, they're all pipes with only a few tufts of grass still showing what it was. These metal trees are also placed near a river so that the metal roots can utilize the water. Interestingly, despite the alien spaceship, most of the technology on display seems more steam-based, if only because of the sheer amount of pipes. This whole area might even be a hydroelectric dam, since we can see that the river leads to a waterfall. We actually get better views of it in other scenes. The big question we have is if all of these scenes are of the same level. The background may raise or lower, but every sequence in the Grasslands has the giant metal tree about the same distance away, even when fighting Gigavolt. The only exception is the arena for the fight against Clanky Woods, so it seems likely that all of these scenes do take place within different points of the same level. Then we have the train level. We can see the pipes in the background and foreground while a canyon or Badlands-like area passes by outside the window. We can see the train tracks as Kirby runs along, and when he uses the red-centered warp star to change planes, we can clearly see the roof. There's even a car that he passes through containing luggage carts, while outside we have a clearer look at the plateaus, which resemble screws. Theoretically, this train would take place in the same world as the desert level that Waddle Dee Kirby is running around in, except in this desert the background is filled with mixer-shaped containers holding oil. In the foreground, Kirby has to watch out for a machine that shoots out rolling pillars while running past large forks. This food theme continues in some of the other levels as well. One screenshot shows a unique ice level with popsicles and ice cream everywhere. We can even see the popsicles being made in the background. Then there's this ocean level with massive running faucets and a rainbow. And even the city level continues this kitchen theme. When we see the tops of the buildings, it becomes obvious that they're shaped like juice boxes with straws sticking out of the top to act as chimneys. Maybe the Holtman Works Company just has the munchies. But we get to see more of this juice box city. At one point we can see a bridge in the background and the Waddle Dees driving cars to act as hazards. But funnily enough, the nearby traffic lights are useful. Each displays Kirby on both the stop and go icons, and that's because they're meant for Kirby. The Waddle Dees do stop when the crosswalk gives Kirby the green. So the only reason the Waddle Dee in the purple car keeps going is because the crosswalk is telling Kirby to stop. The Waddle Dees totally have the right of way. We see more of the city where players travel above the streets, and the bridge is to the left, meaning this could be just past the major crossing where Kirby uses the flamethrower on his fire armor to take out the Waddle Dee motorists. Considering the fact that a good portion of the background is green, we think it's safe to assume that this city can be found in the first world, and players won't just be making their way across the city but above it as well. This is where Kirby uses the parasol armor to climb above the nearby buildings, and we even see a simple puzzle where either of the blue switches could be used to destroy the metal blocks in the background so Kirby can backtrack and reach the chest. There's an even more unique Kirby level that can be seen in Planet Robobot though, a casino. Here we can see betting games everywhere and a giant die can be hit with the armor in order to roll it. Whatever the resulting number is, Kirby gets that many stars. And the theme is everywhere as we see ramps made of playing cards. It's a kind of level that you don't really see Kirby explore that much. Another level further shows that the camera angles are going to be far from static in the game. We saw hints of this during the Clanky Woods chase scene, but in this level we see Kirby make his way up a drilling platform. He's walking around the outside and the camera rotates to keep it 2D. It's a simple trick, but it does a lot to vary what the player is looking at. And this might be the scene of a major confrontation since this seems to be the central operation. The top layer of this platform is spinning, which in turn rotates the drill. Maybe Kirby is out to stop it? The question is, what level is this a part of? Since it's drilling, it may be a part of the desert since we saw the mixers full of oil, but the sky is a completely different color between the two. We also thought it might have been connected to the construction yard scene that the DDD Kirby travels in, but the presence of that rainbow clearly shows that it's part of the ocean level. So it may be that the drilling platform is its own unique level. We just aren't sure exactly what its theme could be. This same confusion also applies to a set of level themes that we've dubbed the Factory. The problem is that while we are able to find similar elements like wires and chemical-filled containers, at different points we see these same elements, but the primary color could be pink, green, or blue. So these may be the same level in just different sections, or completely different levels in the same world. But let's break them down. The first scene is pink and white in color, with blue chemicals in a tube behind Kirby. There are also pink and blue stripes in the foreground, which tie into the next factory scene. Here we see the same stripes and even the same wires, but now the background is showing some container where the blue tubes are meeting. There's also a kind of computer screen overlay separating Kirby from whatever is going on back there. Then, during the Smash Bros. Ability demonstration, the level becomes primarily blue, with the stripes alternating between blue and white. And just like the section before, this has some kind of container behind a screen overlay. The only difference is that 2 yellow tubes are meeting the blue container. But the biggest change up is that this is an auto-scrolling sequence. There are 2 cogs in the foreground, and Kirby has to keep up in turn. This even leads to potential hazards, as the Elec in the background could hit the switch and destroy the metal blocks that provide safe passage across the spikes. Of course, Kirby can fly, so it's not a massive problem. And we get another variety of this same basic layout once again. The same background elements, just green and orange this time, and the same floor pattern except with green and white. And this time the challenge consists of dodging lasers. The pink and blue variety seems to be the most common though, with it appearing during Meta Knight's Amiibo demonstration as part of a vertical shaft in a screenshot, and a place where there are more wires and cogs with few signs of the tubes. As we said before, we're not sure if all of these elements are part of the same level or not, but they're definitely connected. Of course, this is just from the main story of Kirby Planet Robobot. There's also plenty of new modes, and the one Nintendo chose to highlight was Team Kirby Clash. The multiplayer mode supports up to 4 players with 4 different classes available, though based on the way the players stop on the same character as someone else several times, players can likely choose the same class if they want. It's also worth noting that the levels gained during the mode apply to your Kirby and not the individual class that he's using. As the players choose their class, the levels never change, not even the experience needed for the next level. It also seems that by the time players reach level 10, every stat will be maxed out according to the bars, so it seems like it'll be impossible for different players to have different stats for their individual classes. In all, it takes 800 experience points to reach level 1, while 30,950 experience points are needed to reach level 9. While we obviously can't say for sure, we'd predict that level 10, the max level, is reached at 35,000 points. On to the classes themselves, the 4 include the Beam Mage, Dr. Healmore, the Sword Hero, and the Hammer Lord. The Beam Mage likely specializes in long-range attacks and maybe even area of effect spells. After all, Dr. Healmore is seen casting a dome over his allies in order to heal them while dealing damage with his offensive potions. While it's difficult to see exactly, we'd expect the Sword Hero to be the all-around class, while the Hammer Lord specializes in getting close to the enemy to deal massive amounts of damage. The action is too chaotic to make out what each individual Kirby is doing, but at one point we do see that Beam Mage Kirby does have Beam Kirby's standard attack, and the fight against Wispy Woods shows that many of the other classes have their standard attacks as well, but we do wonder if these classes are as different from their origins as Dr. Healmore seems to be. Beyond their classes, players can also collect power tablets that appear throughout the fight. By collecting all 4, a special attack can be triggered. Each player is taken to a different screen where they have 7 seconds to stop their icon in the center. In the direct, the players succeed and launch a massive meteor attack. But what happens if the players fail? Better yet, is it possible to fail? If an icon misses the center, will the damage be lessened? We can't say for sure, but we believe the only way for the attack to outright fail is if every player misses the mark. As long as one hits the center, the attack will launch, though likely with far less power. We also see that the power tablets appear on their own rather than needing to be beat out of an enemy. The process seems to be pretty quick too, as the 4th one appeared within 25 seconds of the Wispy Woods fight. While we don't see them defeat Wispy Woods, we do see that 1,939 experience is earned from beating Gigant Edge. But that also makes us wonder if experience is split even, or decided by what actions the players do during the fight. Could there be times where there are lots of smaller enemies on screen and the player who defeats the most gets more experience? Okay, we're finally almost done, but there are still a few small tidbits that we'd like to point out. For one, we see that the lower screen will display Kirby's lives, the amount of collectible cubes he's found, and how many stars he's collected. The center icon is used to store extra food, which can be used at any time, and of course there are the options to drop the current ability, pause the game, scan an amiibo, or even post a Miiverse. And then there are the other modes. It's not just the main story in Team Kirby Clash. The Nintendo fact sheet also revealed another mode called Kirby 3D Rumble. It's described as a quick fix where players can take on challenges in a 3D space for a high score. Which begs the question, could this be the first fully 3D Kirby mode? It does say the challenges are in a 3D space, but what kind of challenges are they? We have a better idea about the other new mode, Meta Nightmare Returns. Nintendo claims that this is much more challenging as you take control of Meta Knight in a time attack. Not only will Meta Knight be facing off against tougher enemies, but new bosses as well. In addition, we think it's safe to say that the return of Arena mode will likely be the greatest challenge though. Or at least the safe assumption that the return of Arena mode means the true Arena will make an appearance as well. No other modes are mentioned, but Nintendo does confirm that Amiibo will not only work in the story, but the Arena as well, where it will function the same. However, in Meta Nightmare Returns, tapping an Amiibo will gift the player with a random food item in order to heal. And that covers everything we could find in the information released so far on Kirby Planet Robobot. It's looking to be an excellent game with plenty of fun extra modes to keep players engaged for a long time. We certainly can't wait to see more, and that June 10th release date can't come soon enough. Of course, let us know if we missed anything in the comments. If you liked this video, be sure to like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at GameXplain to keep up with everything we do. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stay tuned to GameXplain for more on Kirby and other things gaming.